everyone. I'm going to start with just a brief update on the Lake Huron Technical Committee activities kind of over the past year, and then spend a little bit of time talking about, I guess, the near-term future and issues that we see to be of relevance and importance. See if I can get this to move. Okay, before I do so, just a couple of acknowledgments. Some folks who served long-term in committee leadership positions have passed the gavel to others. Recognize Ed Roseman, who was the prior chair of the technical committee meeting for 3 years. Kudos to Ed for his work. Neil Godme had served for some time as the chair of the Lake St. Mary's Fishery Task Group, and he is turning over the gavel to Stephen Chong from Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources. And then finally, just as an acknowledgement, this last year was the State of the Lake for Lake Huron. I want to acknowledge the authors and primary editor, Stephen Riley, for their work in moving that along. So kind of along those lines, just a couple of brief mentions of some of the things the technical committee has been working on over the last year. One of those being the State of the Lake. The report is substantially complete. I hope I'm not going to get any disagreements from some of the other folks in the crowd, but we think it's in good shape. Probably another round of editing is still before us, and then hopefully moving along to publishing in the near term. One of the things that we did as a technical committee is we held a joint session with the Lake Michigan Technical Committee last summer. I think that it was issue driven. We thought there were issues of common interest to both lakes that we could get together and talk about. So we did organize a joint session last July. Met at Treetops Resort in Gaylord. Some of the things we talked about were developing the study plan for steelhead mass marking. Certainly talked a little bit about native planktivore restoration and then Chinook dynamics, given the movement of fish between the two lakes. So that was encouraging. We'll continue to work on those partnerships as the issues warrant. The technical committee, under the lead of the Lake Trout Task Group, has embarked on developing a suite of metrics that we would consider or recommend for managers to consider as we look at the need to reduce or eliminate stocking of lake trout in Lake Huron. This is a topic that received a fair amount of discussion at the State of the Lake, rightfully so. So we've taken that, I think, to the next step, and we'll continue to work on that in the upcoming months. A couple of, I guess, things to note regarding our task groups. If you were here for the Commons session, you heard Henry Quinlan give an overview of some of the activities of the Great Lakes Sturgeon Working Group. In particular, the implementation of a lake-wide juvenile survey protocol that began on Lake Superior. That was extended to Lake Huron this year, or the past year in 2012, and that was primarily, or I think maybe entirely, in Ontario waters. And those efforts are going to expand to Michigan waters this year as well. As far as the St. Mary's River Task Group, our other standing task group, they've continued to work on development of the fish community objectives for the St. Mary's River. So those efforts continue, and they're working with the Lake Huron Committee to develop a suite of indicators, and we expect that process to continue here in the short term. The other thing they do is organize the comprehensive fish community survey on the St. Mary's River. So 2013 is a year in which a number of agencies will be participating in the fish community survey on the St. Mary's River. A lot of examples of partnership and collaboration. I won't go into all of them, but at the risk of sounding too Pollyannish about these things, I really think the member agencies on Lake Huron and the other support folks have worked really well together. I might mention certainly an example of the Coordinated Science Monitoring Initiative that focused on Lake Huron this year, and plenty of other partnerships which the agencies have worked together on. Now looking forward, just want to mention a couple of things. A lot of these will likely sound familiar if you've sat in this room for the last couple of days. There's going to be a sameness in terms of some of the issues that the technical committee members had mentioned or identified as being important in the near term. Certainly the idea and related to the hypothesis that Mark Ebner had raised at the Commons session regarding the current structure of Lake Huron Committee or the Lake Huron fish community and how that potentially influences sea lamprey dynamics and ultimately the control program. Certainly an item that's going to remain on our agenda to talk about the implications and whatever other information might bring to bear on decision making there. We're certainly encouraged by the information that's becoming available through the acoustic telemetry observation system. And so we look forward to the additional work that's coming. Along those lines, we'll have a couple of presentations today that relate to those studies, one on lake trout and one on walleye, and we have some professional pinch hitters who are filling in for those talks, so we thank them for doing so. One of the other things identified as a potential future initiative is more comprehensive monitoring, or at least coordination as it relates to invasive species. We saw some of that work presented by Mark Bruder for Lake Superior. I think there's opportunity on Lake Huron perhaps to expand some of those partnerships as well. Cisco restorations is something that I think rightfully so has received an awful lot of attention in this room, and it seems to be, no matter what lake we're talking about, it's certainly a topic of interest. So a lot of information that was presented over the last couple of days, and I'm not sure it was provide additional clarity for Lake Huron and where we think we'd like to go with opportunities for restoration, but certainly I think it warrants a closer look at our existing Cisco populations and perhaps some more routine monitoring and reporting. Along those lines, Mark Ebner will be presenting the status of Cisco stocks in northern Lake Huron, after which we will present him with the Ironman Award for giving his 29th presentation during these meetings. So there's been a lot of positive things on Lake Huron, and you'll see that as we move through the presentations on our native species, including our forage base. But it's not all rosy. Certainly an issue that was identified during the State of Lake process is concerns over lake whitefish recruitment. Nothing in the last couple of years has alleviated those concerns, and so Mark again is going to provide a presentation where he'll give a status report on lake whitefish populations in Lake Huron. We had a couple of members mention, and I think we've seen some presentations along these lines about the need to really spend a little more time thinking critically about the potential impacts of climate change. If you're here for the Commons session, Abby Lynch had presented her work that she's going to be working on with lake whitefish. We think there's certainly opportunities to think about not only specific fish populations, but potential for fish community changes and also bioenergetics. And so those are some issues that we might think about spending a little more time as a technical committee. And finally, while I presented this as a looking back, it's certainly also a looking forward. We will embark on, hopefully, and finish the technical guidance that we intend to present to the Lake Huron Committee for consideration as we move through this shift to wild fish in Lake Huron. And so, this is certainly something that is a pretty important endeavor for us, and we don't take it lightly, and we will continue to work along those lines to hopefully finish that white paper this year, this summer. And so I'm not sure what direction Dave Fielder is advocating for in this photo, but he's clearly the most demonstrative. So we'll give him that. And with that, I'm just going to wrap up and thank the members of the technical committee and our standing task group committees for their hard work and participation. Thanks.